you're just going to tell me when to talk. Good evening, SISD community. This is your Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeff Burke. And thank you for joining us tonight on our Facebook Live. I know there are tons of questions that our parents, students, staff, and community have. Earlier today at around 4:30, we did release an email to all parents that kind of outlined our preliminary plan, and those are the things that we're going to cover tonight. Before I start, and I hope you guys will indulge me and allow me to read while I talk at certain points, there's a lot to cover. I just want to again thank everyone for your understanding, your participation, your flexibility over the last 3 weeks or 3 months of school. Sorry, it seems like a long time. It seems like an eternity. But just want to thank you for your trust in us above everything else. And I'm very proud of our staff. I'm very proud of our community, as I have said a number of times, for pivoting so quickly in the middle of a pretty tough situation. And that situation remains tough. It remains challenging. But I do want to assure our community that we have been working since we were shut down in March on reintegration guidelines and plans and digital and remote learning guidelines and plans. And so we have a lot of plans and scenarios in place, and we simply need more information from our community to progress on those plans. So tonight, what we're going to cover is some of the information that was sent out in the email. As it stands now, we will be returning to school in August. That is the plan. We start school on August the 12th, and today is June 25th, and there's a lot of work to be done between now and the start of school. So tonight we're going to cover the 3 learning models that we have under consideration. All learning models will provide services for students with special needs. All learning models allow for students to participate in extracurricular and UIL activities per UIL guidelines. Now we are waiting for UIL to update those guidelines in conjunction with the guidelines that were released from TEA. And again, I just want to remind everyone that this is a rapidly evolving situation. It's very fluid. And so we may have to make adjustments frequently. So in the next few weeks, we're going to continue to keep you updated as circumstances change or as guidelines dictate. STAR testing will take place this year, and plans are currently in development and under consideration for staff and what that looks like for return to work and safety protocols. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tammy Gregerson, our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. She and her staff have worked tirelessly to develop an instructional plans for each model that we are considering. And at this time, I'll turn it over to her, and she's going to talk to you about the different models and what they may look like.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. Before I get started, I really want to take just a moment to thank all of you that filled out the survey for the end of the year to let us know kind of what worked well for you and then what we could improve on. The feedback that you gave us is invaluable. We've really taken everything into consideration as we move forward with plans for reopening schools. So I want to make sure that I thank you for that, because we're going to ask you to fill out another survey that's going to truly help us know how we're going to move forward with our models. We really need to know if your plans are going to be to keep your child at home or if your plan is going to be to send your child to school, because then that's going to help us know what we have to do in preparation for the opening of the new year. So please, please, please fill out that survey that you're going to be receiving this evening, because that's really going to help us with the plans that we kind of have in place right now. So we do have 3 models, as Dr. Burke mentioned. We have an on-site model, and our on-site model is going to seem like a typical day, like you're going to drop your kids off at school, they're going to go to class. The thing that we're going to make sure that we do in order to provide the safety for the safety and health of your child is we're going to make sure that we follow all of the guidelines that have been provided us from the federal, the state, and the local authorities. All of those guidelines will be in place. We're going to do hyper cleaning with misting and with sanitary measures. We're going to make sure that we train all of our kiddos on the importance of washing their hands. And we're going to, there's so many more things. We're going to follow all those guidelines. Those guidelines are being updated every single day. So then we have to go in and update ours as well. We did have a reintegration force task team that has done a fabulous job with keeping us updated and continues to update those guidelines for us in the district. So I have all the faith and confidence in the world that we're going to do everything possible to ensure the safety of your child. So currently right now as it stands, because I know that a lot of people are wondering, there are no guidelines currently as of today that tells us that we have to wear masks. So currently right now it would be the choice of the parent and the student if they wanted to wear a mask. So I think that will be updated as we have seen here recently in Harris County and maybe some other counties around the state. So we'll keep up to date on that. One of the things, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, as far as food and breakfast and lunch, most likely we're going to do something, we're going to make sure that we put in place the social distancing, so we're not sure, we're looking at different considerations. Will they eat in their classroom? Will we be able to have the capacity to have the students have those meals in the lunchroom? Do we do staggered schedules? There's all kinds of things under consideration at this time, but we're going to make sure that we do follow those social distancing guidelines. So I want to kind of move on to remote learning. In remote learning, we're looking at different options, and so some of the things that the state has just this week provided us guidance on what is that going to look like. So it's going to look a little different than it did the last 9 weeks of school, because now we have stricter guidelines from the state of Texas on attendance and what that looks like. They are going to hold us accountable for the 90-10 rule, meaning that students have to be in school, whether it's on-site or remote, 90% of the time, and they have given us very strict guidelines on what does that mean, how do they kind of sign in for attendance or log in for attendance. So we're going to be putting all of those things and items in place that the TEA has provided to us. And so in order for a child to get credit to be promoted to the next grade or to get credit for their coursework, they're going to have that 90%. If they go under that 90%, then we're going to have to figure out how do we help them make up those days. So that's one thing that's really changed, and so we're looking at really all kind of avenues and options that we can do to help support our families that choose the remote model, so that we can make sure that they're successful, that they can actually come every day on a daily basis and honor the guidelines that the TA has put out for us. So one of the things, one of the models that TA has put out is student engagement, and so this is just an example. What does engagement measures mean? So engagement measures mean that they have to log into the learning management system once a day, they have to turn in an assignment, they have to turn in a completed assignment, they have to have a teacher-student interaction, but it has to be on a daily basis. So we're going to make sure that we very clearly lay out all the expectations so that parents and students have an understanding and idea of what the expectations are. The other thing in remote learning I do want to talk about, for secondary students, they can probably do a lot of their work independently. They will always have the accessibility of their teacher through an office hour, and they can reach out to the teacher if they get stuck and they need help with their assignment. But for the younger kiddos, the guidelines are basically that you have to have an internet connectivity. You have to have really reliable internet connectivity. The other thing is you have to have a computer, a device. A cell phone's not necessarily going to work for all assignments, so we're asking that students have a computer and a device. The district's going to do everything in their power to make sure our students have devices. We're working with local businesses to see how we can help support how we can beef up our internet connectivity, but that's going to be a little bit of a challenge right there. But we're going to continue to work so that we can try to provide those avenues for our students who choose to do remote. And the other thing that we have to have is really a partnership with the caregiver. Whoever the student is going to be with, especially for the younger students, they're going to have to be there to help support the learning of their child. So it's three things. It's really the internet accessibility or connectivity. It is the device the student's going to use, and it's the caregiver. Those are the three things that the state has laid out to us that we really need in place to help with the remote learning. The last one that I want to talk about is the hybrid model. And currently, right now, the hybrid model, the way it looks and works, is that we really would move to a hybrid model by the restrictions imposed by the guidelines from federal government and the state government and the local authorities. So let's just assume, for instance, that they say on August 12th, all students can go to school. Well, we currently know that the current guidelines tell us that we have to be 6 feet apart in classrooms and in spaces. And we know that we don't have the physical capacity to make that happen. So in our plans, some of the scenarios that Dr. Burke mentioned that we're looking at, some of those scenarios are, well, we might have to have a staggered start where we have an A schedule and a B schedule, where half of the students are here part of the time and half of the students might be at home engaged in remote learning half of the time. So those are some of the things when we talk about hybrid, that's kind of what that might look like. And the only other time it's a hybrid model is if we do have some students who choose on-site and we have some students who are remote, but something happens on-site and we have to pivot and we have to shut down, then we would go probably to remote, but then when we get to come back, it would probably look like another hybrid model. So I hope that that's clear enough. I know that you guys are going to have lots of questions, and I don't blame you. We have lots of questions too, but the state is just giving us updates every single day, and we're on those calls with the commissioner and the superintendents around the state listening to the updates and the guidelines that they're providing for us. I do want to leave you with this. Please know that we have a team of people in this district from all operations, the Department of Teaching and Learning, operations, the task force teams that Dr. Burke put together that have worked tirelessly since April. I think the reason we were able to do what we did in April because of the culture that we've established here in Splendora and the community, and we were able to push that out. And thank you to the parents and the community for all the support and everything and the grace that you have provided us. But please be confident in knowing that we are working tirelessly, and we're confident that by the beginning of school, our plans are going to evolve into something that is going to be better than before, and we're going to continue to work on those plans to make sure that we provide the best learning experience possible for your children. So, yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Gregerson, for those updates. I just wanted to reiterate a few things that she said and what we need from our parents. We need to know what you prefer, and so the survey that's included in the letter that we sent out today does provide a link for you to tell us what choice you prefer at this time. So, and those choices are on-site or remote. We've already gotten feedback from the letter that we sent out today that some parents may want to choose the hybrid model. And let me talk a little bit about that. So, as Dr. Gregerson mentioned, the capacity and occupancy limits that are set by the CDC and TEA in terms of how many students we can have in the building based on the 6 feet of social distancing will determine how many students we can support on site. So let's just say 90% of our people choose on site. I want you to know that we're kind of going to automatically be in that hybrid model so that we can comply with those social distancing guidelines. And as Dr. Gregerson mentioned, one of the options that we're considering, and I'm sure you've seen this with other school districts as well, is the possibility of an A and B schedule where some students come on A days and some students come on B days. Now, that is not a concrete plan right now. It is a consideration. So I want you to be well informed when you make that choice. We need those survey answers by Monday at the latest so that we can begin making those plans. And we will send out more detailed plans by mid-July. And not to put pressure on anybody, least of all the district, that's a joke. We have 6 weeks until, I wish we had 6 months. We have 6 weeks roughly until August 12th. And so there is a lot of work to do, but I do want to reiterate that we have been working on these plans, and our instructional plans at this point are 18 pages long. So we have a lot of stuff in place to make this work. And I want to reassure our community that we are well positioned and well prepared to move forward with whatever scenario we are faced with. So I want to talk about last spring. And as I've mentioned before, we had to pivot very quickly. And in many cases, that was a short-term fix to a long-term problem. Your responses and your feedback that you gave us on our online survey at the end of the school year were invaluable, and they gave us a lot of things to think about. So we really appreciate that. And I want to remind everyone, this is a partnership. We need your feedback. We need your support, just like you need it from us. And so this is a team effort from our community and our district. And so please continue to provide feedback. Please continue to ask questions. Please continue to express concerns. As I've said consistently, we are all in this together, and we will make it through, and we will come out of it much better in the long run. I also want to talk about Canvas. We have adopted a learning management system called Canvas that we are training all of our teachers on, that will make your experience and the students' experience much easier and better than it was in the spring. We know that there were some consistency issues in terms of how Google Classroom was set up, in terms of how instruction was delivered, in terms of the accessibility and navigation of our classes. We have addressed those. We know that was a problem, and what we've talked about is organizationally and across all campuses and classrooms, we need to be very consistent, because I know there's lots of families out there that have multiple students that attend different campuses. And so we hear your feedback, we've addressed that, and we are working on it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is just reiterating that if you choose remote learning, please understand that the accountability, both from the district and the state, is going to be much greater. And so that means that, again, we are asking for your commitment and your support and your help to make sure that our students stay engaged. And we're going to do everything on our end to make that happen. And we're going to need your assistance at home to reinforce those expectations. Grades will count. Our students will have to maintain their grades and attendance to get credit for classes, and so I don't want any surprises for anybody once you decide what you prefer. Now let me shift a little bit to our calendar. As we've mentioned, the first day of school is August 12th, and at this time we're not considering any changes to the start and end times of school, meaning starting on August 12th and finishing at the end of May. Some of the things that we are considering are potential changes to start and end times to make sure that we meet our minutes allocation. Now, the state of Texas requires us to get to 75,600 minutes at the end of our school year to receive full funding. And so we are working on those minutes to make sure that we have enough to bank in case we have to shut down for some of those school days or for any other eventuality, because in the past we've shut down for other things besides health-related things. We've shut down in the past because of hurricanes, etc. And so we are planning for those eventualities. At this point, we're not changing our holidays, but we may be designating some of those holidays as COVID or health-related or disaster makeup days or bad weather makeup days. If we do have bad weather or COVID-related or health-related issues, remember the flu is still something that we have to consider. Then we may move quickly to a remote learning hybrid model situation. If we do not meet the required number of minutes, instructional minutes, we will consider adding days at the end of the school that are optional if we don't get there, if we don't make those minutes. And so all of those things are in play, in flux, and again, once we have your responses, we'll be better able to put some of these plans into place. So again, I know I've said it over and over, we do need your input. In mid-July, our plan right now is to ask parents to choose a learning model. At this time, we are considering making that for the first semester, but again, we're counting on your feedback to help us make those decisions. I know you have lots of questions, and we'll answer some of those tonight, but we will be disaggregating the data from this chat tonight, looking at those questions, and we will be posting an FAQ document next week that hopefully will address the majority of these questions. So thank you for joining us tonight. I hope that you understand that we miss your kids. We miss each other. We want to be back. but we want to do that in the safest environment possible. And so we have worked hard to design quality instruction and engaging work for your students because we understand the need for academic advancement, improvement, and progress, and we also understand the need for social and emotional support. And so just like always, we are Splendora. We are in this together, and we will make it through. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and at this time I will let my communications department tell me what questions we have, and I will do my best to answer them, and Dr. Erickson will as well. But again, I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for entrusting your children with Splendora ISD. It is an honor and a privilege to serve you as superintendent.
One of the comments about recess for younger students, if they're on site, yes, we would be doing that, but we would have to be.
Okay, so that's a great question. The question was, what about recess for students? Well, guys, I can tell you what, as much as we can go outside, we're going to go outside. So that is a broader environment for us and a safer environment. And so, again, a lot of this just depends on occupancy and capacity. So, yes, we want to continue to make sure that students' physical needs are met as well as instructional needs. Good question.
Yeah, I did have a question about structured learning classes and speech classes or SPED. Will they be able to come to school to get those services?
That's a great question. The question was, what about speech services and structured learning for some of our special education students? I did say at the beginning that all of our learning models will support special needs students, and so that is something that we will address through our FAQ documents. And Matt, I want to make sure I have the right answer for you on that. I don't want to speculate.
We had some general questions about enrollment. That'll be happening later in July, so July 20th in that week.
Yeah,
we
so,
expect online registration.
Yeah, some of the questions were about, the question was about enrollment, and I can tell you guys that we are going to do our part to make sure that anything that can be done remotely or virtually, we're going to do that to keep people safe. And so one thing I didn't talk about tonight is, we have athletics and other student activities that are continuing right now. I know you've probably seen different programs across the state shut down. Our athletics department put together a fantastic plan that we are following the UIL guidelines and protocols for that. We also have summer school that has already started, then bilingual summer school has started, sorry. And then we have full summer school starting July 6th, and we have these guidelines and protocols in place. The main thing is we have way more information and way more detailed structured plans than we are able to talk about tonight that we will be releasing by mid-July. And so but I will tell you that online registration is probably what we're going to do at this point.
Just one more question, maybe what does social distancing look like in the younger grades?
So social distancing in the younger grades, I mean, we're still going by 6 feet apart, and we know that that it's going to be really, really challenging to make sure that our younger students, all of our students, our teachers want to hug our kids, they want to shake their hands, they want to engage with them in that way, and so we just have to all be vigilant in making sure that we're as safe as we possibly can be.
The rest of the questions we'll try to filter through and put them in a combined form for next week.
So thank you guys again for joining us. Like Deetra said, the rest of the questions we'll aggregate and put into an FAQ document. Again, I'm hopeful that tonight was somewhat informative and that we provided some clarity for our community. Just as Dr. Gerson said, please have grace. Understand that this is logistically very challenging. But like every other school district, we're doing the best that we can. And again, we value your feedback, so please continue to send questions, concerns, and comments our way. And we'll be back in touch very soon. Thank you very much and have a good night.